It's Josh, Roam Real Eat. Might be hard to see me right now, but I want to talk to you guys about allotted bourbons. And here in front of me are some of my allotted bourbons in my collection. Eagle Rare 10 and 12 year, Russell's 13, Blanton's Gold, regular Blanton's, E.H. Taylor Single Barrel, E.H. Taylor Small Batch, Shank's Homestead, and the Creme de la Creme that I acquired yesterday, Old Forester Birthday Bourbon 2025 release. I got this in a raffle. I bought a store pick from a liquor store. They had 72 store picks they wanted to move. If you bought one, you got a raffle ticket, and they were going to draw a ticket for somebody to get the birthday bourbon. And there ended up being about 15 or 20 tickets in the raffle, and they drew my name, and that's how I got the birthday bourbon. Extremely rare, not bad retail. I mean, I say not bad retail based on the rarity. It's $199 MSRP, but this can go anywhere from a few hundred to over $1,000 on the secondary market. So stoked to have that. However, the rest of these are fairly reasonable. You see, Eagle Rare 10 is it's about $45 MSRP. E.H. Taylor Single Barrel's probably somewhere around 80. So they're not cheap, but they're not crazy expensive either. I want to talk to you about, when it comes to allotments and allotted liquor, support your local stores, right? So if you're a bourbon hunter and all you're doing is walking around to different stores hoping you're going to find this stuff on the shelf, chances are that's not going to happen. Chances are, if it is, you're going to be sorely mistaken, because it's going to be, if they're putting this stuff out on the shelf, you've either got a really cool liquor store and they're charging MSRP, or you've got somebody that's going to be gouging you. It's on the shelf because they think it's a museum piece and they want $700-800 for it. So what's the trick to allotted bourbon, right? So if you think about it, all of these bourbons are allotted to the liquor store. Sometimes they get a case, sometimes they get 1 or 2 bottles in their allotment, right? So they get the allotment based on the other products that they sell, the everyday stuff, maybe a Smirnoff vodka, or a Tito's vodka, or a Bacardi, or something of that nature. So those distilleries will provide the people who sell the most of their product with these allotted bourbons. Okay, so that being said, you're going to have the liquor stores that want to gouge you. You're going to have the liquor stores that just think, hey, I have product, I'm going to put it on the shelf, I'm going to treat my customers great. And if you find those, they're like, it's like finding a diamond. It's rare to find a liquor store that just puts this stuff on the shelf for MSRP, and that is what it is. But here's what liquor stores do, right? So if this stuff is given to the store based on the other alcohol that they're selling, the everyday products, the Cuervo tequila and stuff like that, would it make sense to them to throw this stuff on a shelf where one guy's going to walk in, maybe even a bourbon hunter, and all he's there to find is allotted bourbon, and he buys everything on the shelf, or he makes a couple phone calls, and 15 minutes later it's not gone? These allotted bottles came to your store because you have regular customers supporting the store. So most liquor stores are going to hold this stuff off, and they're going to sell it to their regular customers. They're going to sell it to the customers who keep the store open, who shop there regularly. So if you're a bourbon hunter and you're just walking in and you walk to the bourbon aisle and they don't have any allotted bourbon out there, and you walk out, one, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your gas money, because that's not how you're going to find this stuff. So you buy your everyday stuff at a certain liquor store, preferably a small to medium-sized liquor store, right? And you talk to the people there, and you're nice to them. You talk to them about different stuff, how they're doing that day, and you develop some rapport with them. In your conversations, you bring out, hey, I've never had a bottle of E.H. Taylor small batch. If you guys ever come across one, I'd love to give it a try. And that store owner or that store manager is going to treat you differently than the bourbon hunter that walks in the door, walks to the bourbon aisle. You got any allocations? No. Okay, and leaves, right? So that guy is never going to keep those doors open. He's never going to get that manager a sales bonus. He's never going to do anything besides deplete the store of their allocated bourbon and not the regular customers. Okay, so that's the general gist behind it and maybe the ethics behind it. Now we're going to get into the shockwave that gets created when you're buying bourbon above market value or above MSRP, right? So let's say I'm Buffalo Trace Distillery and I make Blanton's, right? So MSRP on the Blanton's is $65. So the distillery has to make money. They have to use a distributor. The distributor has to make money. He's got to pick it up from Buffalo Trace Distillery, bring it to his warehouse, store it in the warehouse, ship it to his regular customers, or ship it to a regional rep at the same distributor, and then he's going to store it in the warehouse, load it up, and take it to the liquor store, and the liquor store has to make money. Okay, so you've got 3 people touching it. It's been transported 2 or 3 times. Okay, so understand that the price that each of those 3 are making when you do find somebody selling it for MSRP is not a lot when you figure the cost of making it, producing it, aging it, and bottling it, distributing it, and putting it on the shelf like this. So there's a lot of steps and a lot of costs associated with that. So there's not a lot of money being made in all 3 areas on one bottle of bourbon. So those companies are always, looking at, well, can we raise prices? Are we going to lose sales? There's a mathematical formula called the elasticity of demand. It's if you're into derivatives and stuff like that, you'll enjoy looking that up. However, so the distributor looks at, if we raise our prices, are we going to lose sales? Is our product going to become, less attainable to a lot of people? And so they see on the secondary market that, Buffalo Trace Distillery may make $6-7 a bottle on a bottle of Blanton single barrel, right? So they're making it, they're storing it, they're aging it and everything, and they make $6 a bottle. MSRP is $60. And then their board members, their distiller, and everybody else is looking at the internet, and they see that people are paying $150 or $180 for a bottle of this, right? So what happens is if you buy it at a local liquor store that inflates the price, they're gouging you, you're taking it, and in doing so, you're allowing them to just continue gouging everybody, and that's not cool. So the second thing is if you're buying it online for $150 or $160 a bottle, Blanton's looks at that, and I say that Blanton's, Buffalo Trace Distillery looks at that and says, wait a minute, we're making $6 a bottle on this, and this guy that's selling it on the secondary market is making $120 a bottle? How much sense does that make, right? So that doesn't make any sense, right? If I'm producing something and I'm making $6 off it, and I see some Joe that's just buying it at the store and flipping it on the internet and making $120 on it, I'm going to say, well, wait a minute, I need to raise my prices. So that's what's happening with these allocated bourbons. The managers at the distilleries and the board members at the distilleries are saying, hey, let's raise our prices. We're going to make more profit, and maybe we will curb the secondary market. Because if we raise the price from $60 to $90 a bottle, we're going to make $36 instead of $6. And then maybe the people who are buying them at the stores and selling them secondary aren't going to be making enough money to make it worth their while, and they're going to stop selling stuff on the secondary market. So, now, let me touch on another group here. I understand if you live in a really small town, so let's say, for instance, Murphy, North Carolina. North Carolina has state-owned liquor stores. Murphy's a very small town. It's a vacation destination. People have homes up in the mountains, right? So those state-run liquor stores, when they get their allotment, they have to serve the bars and restaurants first. So, and the bars and the restaurants buy the alcohol from the state-run store in the area. And so those bars and restaurants pay the majority of the bills from the liquor store. So they're going to get first whack at all of this stuff. So chances are it's going to be gone. So you live in Murphy, North Carolina. You don't own a bar or a restaurant. You don't own a nightclub. Well, there are no nightclubs in Murphy, North Carolina. But you get where I'm going. So how do you get a bottle like this? So you drive 3 hours to Atlanta. You drive 2 hours to Asheville, right? So nobody in their right mind is going to drive to 3 hours to Atlanta from Murphy, North Carolina, to maybe find a bottle of Blanton somewhere and not know what they're going to charge. So if that's your situation, where you live in a really small rural area and it's not feasible to acquire a bottle of allocated liquor, then I understand if you're buying it on the secondary market. I just caution you that, hopefully you hopefully you brace yourself for impact, because some of these guys will really stick it to you. And another thing you can do is, if you live in a rural area like that, and you have a friend or a family member that lives in a big town, ask them to stop in at a liquor store and see if they can find something for you. And if you do, then you put it in a FedEx box or a UPS box and you UPS it to them. And it's a lot better than smacking somebody with $180 for a $60 bottle of bourbon. And you ruin it for the rest of us too. That's allocated bourbon in a nutshell. That's how the allocation works. Here's something I forgot. Some of your smaller liquor stores, and what I mean by your mom and pop liquor stores, where the owner of the liquor store may have one, may have two, maybe have 3 locations. You build a rapport with that guy, and occasionally what they'll do is a bottle drop. So what they mean by that is they'll save up some of their allotted bottles, and they'll tell the customers, hey, on Saturday, February 15th, what we're going to do is we're going to have 50 bottles of allotted bourbon, and the first 50 customers in the door get a shot to buy, based on where you are in line. And if you're one of the first 50 customers, you're guaranteed to get a bottle of allotted bourbon. And some of them make you buy a store pick, and some of them don't. And so a store pick is just a bottle that they've tasted at different barrels, and they've picked one that they want to put their name on, and they buy the whole barrel and get it bottled with their label on it. And that's another way to get it. You find those small to medium-sized liquor store companies and develop a rapport with them, follow them on social media. That helps them out too. And then, be ready to go wait 4 or 5 hours and enjoy talking to other bourbon enthusiasts and bourbon collectors. Make a day of it. If you're a social person and that's what you want to do, then do something like that. Understand that if you're buying bourbon on the secondary market, you're raising the prices for everybody and you're getting taken advantage of. So try to buy it at or close to MSRP. Don't support anybody that's trying to stick it to you, right? So that is allotted bourbon, how it works, how it affects you, and how you can add bottles to your collection. So like, subscribe, drink responsibly. Cheers.